Gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes my good friend from Houston, Mr. Olson. 5 minutes.
I thank the chair and welcome to our 6 experts. Texas 22 is the southwest suburbs of Houston, Texas. Right now, we have 1 million people in Texas 22. That makes it the largest congressional district in America. And that growth means problems when a disaster hits like a hurricane. We have many monikers about my home area. It's the home of the Imperial Sugar Company. It's called the energy capital of the world. It's called Space City, USA. And it's also called part of Hurricane Alley. And we will get hit by a hurricane. Again, it's not a matter of if, but when. We've suffered the worst natural disaster in our country's history, the Galveston hurricane of 1900. 12,000 people killed with no chance to know what's coming their way. We had Hurricane Carla in 1961, the most intense Gulf hurricane ever. We had Hurricane Alicia in 1983, wiped out the Texas Medical Center. We had Hurricane Ike in 2008, which rebounded. The storm surge came back down Galveston Bay to hit Galveston on the backside. And as y'all know, we had Harvey hit us twice in 2017. A working communication network saves lives during disasters. The system during Harvey was much better than during Hurricane Ike. We had real-time information about tornadoes that popped up, about roads that were impassable, about routes to get away from your home that may be flooded, where gas stations were open, grocery stores were open. That information saved lives. So my question is for you, Mr. Gerst, if you want to add in Mr. Henry, is I support a robust disaster information reporting system for carriers, broadcasters, and cable providers so they can report their operational status during these emergencies. But currently, the system is voluntary, and certain information is kept confidential. Why is that the case for the communication industry in particular?
Congressman, thank you very much for the question, and acknowledging the challenges that increasing severity and intensity of these storms are going to present, particularly for your area. We were actually very proud of the experience of Hurricane Harvey in terms of the availability of services. 96% of cell sites were up, 300 wireless emergency alerts, 96,000 911 calls made, people organizing themselves for rescues. In other emergencies, in all emergencies, it's important for first responders and public safety stakeholders to have information about the status of communication networks so that they can better prioritize where their resources are going to go. That data about cell tower information, though, is both competitively sensitive and potentially a national security threat in terms of how it's exposed. We are committed to working with the FCC, with this committee, with stakeholders to identify ways to expand access to that information in a way that can protect that information. Just tomorrow, we expect that the FCC is going to be opening up a new proceeding that will be talking about that exact issue, and we look forward to a robust record developing there, and we think that there will be some new information gained by engaging with stakeholders there, but we are absolutely committed to enhancing information sharing with public safety stakeholders.
Thank you. Mr. Henry, any comments on the question, sir?
Yes, and first, thank you for the question and for the opportunity to discuss this. We share sentiments with CTIA on this, that we really do need a more robust information flow going to and from public safety. I think the only thing that I'd like to add on to this, and you know, Houston is the perfect example. 911 is public safety, and public safety is, at the end of the day, Homeland Security.
Yep.
And public safety can be trusted with this information, whether it be competitively sensitive or sensitive in the sense of national security. When the threat to national security is a city being wiped out by a natural disaster, that's as much of a concern as anything else. Public safety has established standards and practices for dealing with sensitive information. We do it every day, and don't have any sort of hesitation about being able to keep that visible to only eyes that need it.
I do have to thank your industry for what you did during Hurricane Harvey, because I was there for Hurricane Ike, and people didn't have information. They got in the roads when they should not have. Probably 50 people died, and that's the big standard deaths in terms of how well we're doing. And Brazoria County, right there on the Gulf of Mexico, had 0 deaths during Hurricane Harvey. And the entire county is basically flooded from the Gulf halfway up to Pearland, Texas. So thank you for making that happen. A big transition, and this is for you, Mrs. Atkerson. Back home, my church, I'm involved with a small Bible study group that gets together every Monday after the weekly service to just talk about this service and lessons learned. This past week is a very different meeting. We spent the entire hour, bumped up to an hour and a half, talking about a very tragic situation. One of our members, she works at a local store down there in Sugar Land. A co-worker lost a son to suicide this past week. She lost a second son to suicide a few years ago. And I cannot believe the pain she's going through. And my question is, I support this bill that gets 988 going, because we don't know if these boys could have a number to call when they're in their crisis. Can they reach out? Could they? What happened? We'll never know. But any advice I can tell her from you, what's going to happen with this system and how she can utilize it to make sure this never happens again, that these kids who are about to think the ultimate thing to do to take their own lives have a vehicle to vent and get some help to stop those suicidal thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm very sorry to hear about the loss in your community. This is obviously a very difficult topic. Just one suicide death is estimated to affect at least 6 other people or more. And so we see a tremendous ripple effect, and the numbers just continue to increase, as you all know, year after year in this country. It's a tragedy. One of the challenges has been that there hasn't been a comparable system to what we have for medical emergencies. We don't have an easy, most of us can't remember a time when we just didn't have 911 available to us, no matter where we are in this country, to rapidly access medical care. Sadly, the same kind of 3-digit rapid response has not been available for people in a mental health crisis. And as you are saying firsthand, as people in a suicidal or mental health crisis, it can be just as life-threatening as a stroke or a heart attack. So transitioning the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline from a difficult-to-remember 10-digit hotline that still many, many people in this country don't have memorized, or just imagine how difficult it is to try to think about what that number is. If you're a mother with a child that's suicidal, trying to remember a 10-digit number versus 911 or 988. So what I can say is, going forward, the urgency, this is a moral imperative for us to pass this legislation so that 988 can be easily recognizable and accessible to all of our kids, family members, parents, to anyone in this country anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentleman yields
Thank you for
back.
your indulgence. Yield back.
Chair recognizes